fellow company, and welcome to Show People, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the UK performing arts industry and those dedicated to their craft, covering the latest news and issues, what to see and do, showcasing theatrical talent, and of course, always trying to inform, educate, and entertain. My name is Andrew Keates. I'm a director and your host. Now, today's guest certainly has the X Factor. She's played Elizabeth in Dirty Dancing, Eponine in Les Miserables, Nessa Rose in Wicked, Jean in American Psycho opposite Matt Smith, and Jemma in Molly Wobbly's Tit Factory. And she has just finished playing Julia in the UK tour of The Wedding Singer. Please go mad for the one, the only, Miss Cassie Compton! Welcome to the show!
Hi, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, never a chore. Cassie will be with us for the entire show. Coming up, I'll be covering the latest dramatic news. On the platform, we have a song from Alice the Musical by Paul Boyd. And of course, I'll be interviewing Cassie Compton all about her life, career, and setting her some infamous Show People podcast challenges too. You are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates and Cassie Compton. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Andrew.
Hello, mate. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Not bad. All the better for seeing you.
I'm really excited.
I'm really excited. So listeners, I've been trying to get Cassie on this for months, but she's been too busy being hugely successful and doing lovely things otherwise. Thank you so much for coming to see me on this hot, sweaty day.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Eventually.
And eventually. You were top of my list at the beginning. This has been since 2017 going, oh, Cassie, I'd like to get you on the Show People podcast. So how have you been? What have you been up to?
I have been very well. I'm enjoying the sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
I hope everybody else is in the UK. I am currently rehearsing for a solo show that I'm doing at the Other Palace.
Yes.
On the 8th of July. It's so soon.
Very soon.
Have some wonderful guests with me and a band, and there's a bar.
Who have you got as your special guest? Can you say yet?
I can. I have announced them all. They're all done. So the one and only Conleth Kane.
Amazing.
I know,
Love
who
that
is an
boy.
absolute dream. If you don't know him, I mean, he was on like RTE's Fame, their Search for Nick and Serena, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Joseph, Beauty and the Beast, and is now a fully fledged singer-songwriter.
He's done so well. I keep hearing he keeps writing these songs in his kitchen,
They are
which suddenly seem to
beautiful.
like go straight from sort of his kitchen to the radio, and he's getting this huge sort of following and a
publishing
kind boy.
deal, everything. So he will be singing with me.
Great.
Again, and also one of his own songs, which will be wonderful. And then I've got the incredible Cara Lane, who has been in Mary Poppins,
Everything.
The Sound of Music, Evita, Scrooge. I mean, literally everything. And was also 1/3 of the girls from Oz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because she is from Oz. Well, I don't mean Wicked, I mean Australia.
Yeah.
And then I have a man, I don't know, I live with him. He's okay, talented-ish. Stephen Webb.
Yeah.
You know, he played Ren in Footloose, Tommy DeVito in Jersey Boys. He's currently playing Charles Clark in Titanic. He was in the original cast of Parade at the Donmar. Benny Southstreet in Guys and Dolls. I mean, it goes on.
So tell me what the concert is going to be about. What are you going to be doing so people can go and book tickets? So
it's a show that I've taken out a few times before. Its first outing was at Lauderdale House in Highgate.
Lovely.
And I did 2 nights at Zadell, Crazy Cox at Zadell in Piccadilly Circus. It's basically a celebration of the greatest female singers and singer-songwriters, spanning from Judy Garland to Barbra Streisand. Kind of the new outing of this at the Other Palace studio is going to be a little bit more modern. Mm-hmm. We've still got the greats, still got Carole King.
I was hoping Judy, you would say
bit
Carole
of Babs. But a few surprises. You know, artists like Carrie Underwood, who I think is just an exceptional vocalist and a little bit underrated, I think, over here. I know she won American Idol, but beautiful country singer. So some Carrie Underwood. Now I'm thinking. A little bit of Miley Cyrus, but not as you have heard her.
Yeah.
So just a real tribute to great female artists.
Women.
Which I think is important.
Well, as ever, Cassie Compton being the generous creature that she is, we have, believe it or not, a Show People podcast giveaway. Thank you very much, the children I keep in my basement. So if you would like to win 2 tickets to come and see Cassie's show at the Other Palace, you will find pinned at the top of the Show People podcast Twitter account a link to this episode and a retweet competition. If you retweet that and follow at Show People UK, you could win 2 tickets, and we will announce 2 days before the concert. So do get retweeting, and hopefully I will see you there at Cassie's concert. So it's time for a Show People podcast challenge, Cassie Compton.
I'm ready.
Are you?
Yeah.
No fear?
No, I'm terrified.
Great. Cassie Compton, I have, and people do ask me, and they go, do you really have a copy of the CV? I do. It's here.
Oh, no.
Cassie Compton, I have a copy of your CV in front of me. I would like you to tell me every single credit you can possibly remember within 60 seconds.
Oh.
Cassie Compton, your Show People podcast challenge starts now.
Whisker Down the Wind, The Secret Garden.
Yes.
Diamond, Spinach, Monkey Business, Wicked, Les Miserables, Dirty Dancing, American Psycho, Call the Midwife, Mr. Selfridge. Oh, I'm scared. I'm scared. Big Train.
Think Workshops.
Oh, The Boy Next Door.
Yes.
Oh, great Rob Fowler, shout out. Oh gosh, I'm scared. Eggs. And The Wedding Singer.
Something.
The X Factor.
Something about a fork beard.
Oh, Fork Beard and Olive.
Amazing, sounds incredible.
Oh gosh.
Commercials.
Oh my gosh, Sunny. Where have I been?
You did work for the Food Standards.
27.
You did work for the Food Standards
British
Agency.
Food Standards Agency.
Very good.
Yes, I did. It's very important. Cook your food properly. Oh my gosh. My
Thinking
mind's gone blank.
of events, you were in the BAFTA Children's.
Oh my gosh, the children's BAFTAs. Oh my gosh.
Think about a TV show that
This
might
is
involve a
really-
nasty man.
Oh, yeah. Well, I said the X Factor.
Oh, you said and the X Factor Extra.
Oh my gosh.
Very good.
That was rubbish.
Only a few missed out. Now, you have missed out my favourite. Well, it's not my favourite show ever written, but it is one of my favourites.
Oh no, I missed out Molly Wobbly's
Tip Factory.
I missed out. Oh gosh.
You were also Kathy in the last 5 years.
I know I missed out the last 5 years. What a beautiful show.
You also, what was the other thing I noticed? You missed out The Little Prince.
I missed out The Little Prince.
Yeah.
Oh, Nick Lloyd Webber and Jamie Reed. I'm so sorry.
You missed out, what else did I notice? Carnival of the Animals at the Riverside Studios.
Oh gosh.
You missed out Rehab.
Elliot Davis. The one for Elliot Davis.
Of course,
who
that
co-wrote
Rehab.
Loserville. That Rehab, yes. Oh goodness me. That was appalling.
You
I'm
were
so
also
sorry.
in something called Murder Rooms.
Oh, Murder Rooms was a BBC TV show about Sherlock Holmes.
Was it? I never saw it.
TV series, yeah.
And what else did we have? Love in a Cold Climate.
Love in a Cold Climate was a BBC One series based on the novel by Nancy Mitford, and it was directed by Tom Hooper, who
Of Les Mis fame.
Les Miserables fame. And it was the last, I think I'm correct in saying it was the last project that Alan Bates filmed before he passed away.
No way.
Yeah.
There are just loads of really wonderful things here. And of course, I'm going to talk to Cassie all about her entire life and career. But first, let's take a little break and listen to this lovely man.
Hello, my dears. You have the ineffable and probably undeserved pleasure of listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates. This is Stephen Fry wishing you a wonderful listen. Thank you.
Let's start at the very beginning.
A very good place to start.
Thank you very much. If you didn't say that, you would immediately be kicked off the show. You are originally from Crouch End.
Yes.
In London.
Yeah.
What I think a lot of people won't know about you is how you are part of an entertainment business family. Maybe can you tell our listeners just who your mum and dad are?
So my mother is a singer, and I'm not advocating this in any way because this is a very long time ago. She'll love me for that. She left home at 17. She joined a band. She was signed to EMI for a bit in a band called Peace of Mind, and then went on as a solo artist under the name Terri Christopher. She toured the US for a very long time, and she was on I guess it would be called a reality TV program called Search for a Star, but it was a variety. Variety shows are very big then, and it was a variety TV show called Search for a Star. And she toured with Jimmy Tarbuck and Freddie Starr for many, many years, and has worked with quite a few musicians that I've now worked with, which is, I think, scary for me because she's very professional and very, very good. And so, there's kind of got to keep that up. Oh, you're Terri Christopher's daughter. Okay, right. So you should know your shit then, shouldn't you? Oh, it was the first swear word, and it's been how long?
But it is drink number 2 already. We've had a gin and tonic. Yeah.
So my dad worked in advertising. So a very creative family.
I love your father. Your father is such a lovely man who gives such me lovely piece of advice.
He will love that. He's he's a sweetheart. He's very supportive.
So when you were a little girl growing up in Crouch End, I suppose it was quite ordinary then to be mixing, even as a little one, with recognisable musicians, artists, people in the entertainment industry. Was that a childhood that you enjoyed?
Yes, I think so, but I don't think I really thought about it as... I mean, neither of my siblings, they're both super talented, but neither of them have gone in that direction.
Very wise.
Very, very wise. Well, actually, I guess my brother has now slightly, because he's in close protection looking after some very well-known artists. So maybe he did, but not quite directly, indirectly. Mm-hmm. He was wise. And my sister is doing incredibly working in fashion. So it was just me that kind of stuck with it. I mean, I hate to use that word, blessed, but I was to work with just the most incredible musicians. If anybody, any jazz lovers, I mean, Peter Jacobson was a blind pianist, God rest his soul, he's not with us anymore, but to be able to sing with him at the age of 10, 11, 12 was an absolute joy. And the things that I learned working with musicians like that, and like Nigel Wright, who I was talking about earlier, who's now a musical supervisor extraordinaire, who'd worked with my mother when she was in her early 20s. Guy Richmond, awesome drummer who I did Wicked with eventually, and who'd all worked with my mum. It was just lovely to be surrounded by positive creativity, I think.
Where do you think your desire to be an actor and a singer came from?
I would love to pinpoint it, but I can't. Mm-hmm. I came out of my mother and I put on a sparkly red bowler hat. I picked up a bed knob.
Yeah.
And I think the first VHS my dad has of me is doing a simple sidestep, just a simple sidestep, because I'm not a great dancer, singing, I should be so likey, likey. Obsessed with Kylie Minogue. There wasn't a transition. There was never she looks like she might be interested in performing arts.
It just was.
It's that cliche and that worrying for my parents, to be honest. Everything was dramatic. I went to my summer fair dressed as a crow.
Right. Why were you dressed as a crow?
Because I wanted to. My sister went as Little Bo Peep and my mother said to me, what do you want to go as? And I went,
Crow.
A crow. She went, it's summer. A crow.
Crows?
No, because that's what I decided in my head, and that was the character that I wanted to be, and I wanted to be a crow.
I love that. It sounds like you've had a really great upbringing.
You know what? If you're not, just go with it. Be out there.
Yeah. And can you remember the first time that you were sat in a theatre? Can you remember that?
Yep.
Where was it?
I went to the London Palladium and I was watching The King and I. And I remember being sat in the dress circle, and I can literally see it now. And I had insisted on I had this beautiful silver bracelet that used to go on my left wrist. And instead of wearing it, again, I told you I was a slightly off-the-wall child.
Yeah.
I wanted to carry it in a little bag. My mum said, you're going to lose it. We're going into London. We have to go on a train. We're going to the theatre. No, I won't. Why don't you wear it? I don't want to wear it. I want to have it in my little handbag. So I was going to the theatre and I'd seen, pictures of people going to the theatre and, these women dressed up as you did then, 20 odd years ago to go to the theatre. People really made an effort on a weekend and, and they had their little bags with them. So that's what I wanted to do. And I lost it. And I can remember watching the show being completely in awe. And afterwards, I remember being there with the cleaners hoovering and bless them, trying to find the bag with my silver bracelet, and it had gone. So if anybody 20 odd years ago found a silver bracelet belonging to a child, please return it. It's mine.
I would love it if we could genuinely reunite you.
Can you imagine?
If we could reunite you with that bracelet.
It's probably gone.
Or sold. It's probably on eBay. Sorry,
Yeah.
just to really take that beautiful story
I know.
and crush your dreams. And what was the first time that you started? I mean, of course, from the sound of things, you were performing at home. Obviously, you sound like you were sort of the Von Trapp family.
My poor siblings. I can only apologise. I used to act out. Actually, I never forget. Gosh, this is so stagey. My mother's new boyfriend, Phil, was obviously understandably nervous at meeting us for the first time. And Mum said, we're going to introduce you to, I must have been about 6, 7. And Phil's a bass player, so he's single-handedly responsible for writing out any handwritten sheet music that I still have and use. And I remember being like, oh, it's Mum's friend, I have to impress him. So I roped in my best friend, who's still my best friend, who lived across the road, Shai-Ying, and my sister Olivia. Guys, we've got to perform Beauty and the Beast. Now, Mum thought, that's cute. She's going to do, I don't know, the opening number.
How old are you now?
I must have been at 6, 7.
Mm-hmm.
No. The entire soundtrack. I made my sister be, when she sat there at the waterfall, and is it a sheep nibbling at her?
Yeah.
Yeah, I made my sister and Shai be the sheep.
I would have loved you as a fellow 6-year-old.
And this poor man, who's still in my life now, this poor man, bless his heart, he sat there whilst we acted out the entire soundtrack, motion picture soundtrack to Beauty and the Beast. And he sat there. That's how much he must have loved us. Oh. Bless him. Yes, the entire soundtrack. It's about, an hour 20?
From the sounds of things, your childhood sounds like a place where play and music were just inherent in your upbringing. When did you start showing a desire to do this as a career?
That's really interesting. I'm trying to, again, pinpoint it. I think it was always there, and I was always so massively supported. Even at primary school, our primary school was very creative, and it didn't oppress those things at all. It was, of course, education and mainstream education was important, as it always is, and as it should be. But I remember all of my teachers, particularly in primary school, incorporating art into learning, which I think is super important.
And not necessarily the case now, yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, and it is difficult, and you have to cater for, and I don't always think that it is easy to cater for every single, 30 pupils in a class. It's not. But then I went to Highgate Wood, so I just went to a North London Comprehensive in Crouch End. And while I was there, I think maybe a year or two after my joining, and secondary school was daunting for me because I wasn't your typical 11, 12-year-old. I knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't cool. I'm not very cool now. I wasn't cool. I wasn't hip. I wasn't, for want of a better term, like a rude girl. I wasn't like, I don't care. Like I did care, but I also wasn't super, super smart academically. So I didn't really know where I fit in. And then my school got performing arts status, which was from Haringey Council, which is absolutely incredible. And it wasn't just the music, the art and the drama department that supported me or supported, I said we had like my very good friend Scarlett Johnson, who went on to do EastEnders when she was 17 and still did her A-levels with the school. They were so supportive in every way, from my PE teachers to my RE teachers to my music department. And that was when I went, do you know what? If I'm so supported and I can work now, I don't feel like this is a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
If these people believe in me, then I think I might at least give it a go.
This comes up time and time again with guests on this show, talking about extraordinary teachers rather than what so many other people hear out there, which is, oh, you want to go into theatre, it's very hard. It's very hard to be an actor, very hard to be a director, choreographer, whatever. Sometimes I do wonder how much harm that causes when talking to children, when they say, I want to be an astronaut, a fireman, a actor, whatever it is, I wonder if actually there's more to be said in education nowadays by saying, okay, try. Because otherwise people go, oh, it's too difficult, then I shouldn't try. And you know how hard it is, and so do I. But how wonderful to hear people going, is that your dream? Cool. Then how can we support that with a concert or a play? But what were some of the early productions you were cast in? And what were some of the demands that a young Cassie Compton had to make?
Okay, so my school, we had an annual winter concert and they sold tickets, and actually they used to always sell out, so much so that they'd end up adding like dates. And it was beautiful. It was incredible. You had people just like reading poetry. You had bands, musicians, solo singers. It was awesome. And in North London, it really was the concert to be at. It was super cool. You are not allowed to be a soloist in the winter concert, I believe, until year 8, year 9. And I went in and I went for the audition, even though I knew I wasn't meant to, in my break time. And I sung As Long As He Needs Me from Oliver. I also had, by the way, at this point, I insist on this pixie haircut that looked really cool on a 35-year-old, but not on an 11-year-old. So I looked like a boy. And I got through, and I was a soloist in the winter concert, and I was for every single year. And that was grand, because that was the place to be. But we also, our school plays, the payoff was you can't be a soloist in every winter concert and be a lead in the school play. I was like, what? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I realised that actually it's not ridiculous, because everybody deserves a chance to shine. So I was like, okay, fine. Which would you rather? And I was like, winter concert. Because that was the one that was like, the
cool one.
The cool one. But I did, oh, so stagey. I was cast as Carol in Our Day Out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go to my awesome drama teacher, Miss Stables, and say to her, Miss Stables, I can't play Carol on Our Day Out. And she was like, oh, well, why? What's wrong? Are you okay? And I said, well, I've just got The Secret Garden.
So tell our listeners what this is.
This is the RSC's production of The Secret Garden at the Aldwych Theatre in the West End. And Miss Stables looked at me and she went, that's absolutely fine. Then I shall release you.
Well, I'm glad she did. So, I mean, this is a very, very important production. I mean, there are still clips out there on YouTube of that. Were you opposite people like Zachary Morris?
Yes.
And you would have obviously had...
He was my Colin.
Zach was a couple of years below me at drama school at GSA. And now you see him, he's sort of this gym bunny that's, discovered that he's a homosexual and Instagram
and
things.
And he's now loving his life in New York.
Loving his life in New York. But it is funny when you go back and you see this adorable little Zachary. You had Philip Quast, of course.
Philip Quast, Peter Policarpou, who still, when I see him now, is just the most wonderful, wonderful man. And always very kind and says hello. And I mean, I was 13.
13 years old doing... And tell me, what was it like from being in a Crouch End comprehensive to then being with all of these much older, pretty zany, knowing the people you're in, actors in the West End? What was that like? Well,
my kind of first introduction to the West End, so before The Secret Garden, I was cast in Whistle Down the Wind.
Yeah.
And I was in the kids ensemble, and I covered Brat. It's my first experience of covering 11 years old. I nearly got on once, but it's because she had indigestion.
Nope.
And then she got over it. And I was all dressed up in my costume, mic'd up. Mum was on her way. Tough life, kids. It's a tough life.
When they do the film version of your life, I'm sure that'll be the first scene, just the Cassie Compton
just
waiting.
Me waiting. In the orange checkered dress.
And a pixie haircut.
Yeah. Pixie haircut. And so, but obviously, the kids ensemble was quite isolated to either just working with whoever's playing Swallow or the man.
Sure.
The Secret Garden was the first time that, I look back at it now and I think, why was I not terrified? I mean, Mary Lennox carries that show, really. Mm. It's her story.
Yeah.
And I wasn't terrified. I loved it. And I was working with the most incredible people. And it was just, there was no other way to describe it than I think it's possibly one of the best jobs of my entire career.
And no fear.
And how do you top that?
But I suppose no fear as well. I mean, there are so many adults that I work with where all I'm trying to do is get them back to a place of childishness and play. And actually, when you are 13, and told, okay, imagine this. Yeah, cool, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then you have to go, well, as you didn't do, then you have to go to drama school to try and remember what all the things you were doing when you were little. Obviously, you didn't go to drama school. Your experience was being in productions like Whistle Down the Wind, like The Secret Garden, and indeed other shows that we're going to talk about. After doing The Secret Garden, do you think you appreciated all that your parents would have been doing there and then, you know, getting you to the theatre on time, picking you up? You know, this is before the days of drivers and all these other lovely demands that people can make. Did you feel your parents supporting you doing this role?
Yes. My mum used to joke that the car would probably drive itself to the Aldwych because Whistle Down the Wind was there, and then so was The Secret Garden. And then, yes, I did work there again when I did Dirty Dancing, but as an adult, so mum didn't have to drive me. My parents were the most supportive. They were so chilled about it, though. And that was what made it fun. And there was no pressure. It was what made it easy. It made it easy to enjoy it. It made it easy to learn from the adults that I was working with, because there was no pressure at home. It was just, okay, you're going to go and do that thing that you love doing. I mean, I might ask you about it. I mean, they weren't like, how was the show tonight? Was it okay? Did anything happen? They were so chilled. Although my dad used to joke that, because obviously when you're a child and you're working, you rotate in teams. Mm-hmm. And my dad used to say that I'd get into the car and I'd be crying because I'd just say goodbye to one of the other kids, and my dad would go, oh, are they leaving? Is it the end of the contract? I'm like, no, I'm just not going to see them for 4 days. He was like, you're so dramatic. But yeah, they were so supportive. Like, my sister knew all the words to Whistle Down the Wind, all the words to The Secret Garden, just from listening to me.
I said this to you. I think you had come to support my production company, Arian Productions, and whenever I have an event, I always pick up the phone and go, right, Cassie, you're singing. I had only discovered through a random conversation, and did not know this, that you had appeared on some little television show, indeed the first, called The X Factor. Now, it won't surprise anyone who listens to this to know that, do you know what? The X Factor isn't really high on my watch list.
No, is it not?
No, it's not. And what was really funny is, well, funny and disturbing at the same time, is I said, Cassie, I had no idea you were in the fucking X Factor. You went, what? Of course you did. I said, no, I had no idea. Because, of course, I know you from a period in your career when, you know, we'll talk about it later, things like, of course, you know, Wicked and everything else. So today, for the first time, I've put myself through watching YouTube clips of a 17-year-old.
That's horrendous. Why would you do that to yourself?
Well, because, you know, a bit of research helps. And so you, obviously from your primary school and all that wonderful world of the West End and the Aldwych, etc., you were obviously a student before you then did that television show, which sort of brought you to the general public's first attention in, you know, let's be honest, what was the biggest TV show at the time. What were you studying at the time, and how did the X Factor come along? Okay.
The real story is this. I would love to say that it was off my own back and that I was studying really hard. And I'm not advocating not finishing your A-levels. I was studying sociology and drama at A-level. I was also doing music, but I dropped it, which I really regret. We've had this conversation again about me, like, you know, playing an instrument, all those sort of things that I was drummed into me, and I really, really wish that, again, all those things that were drilled into me that I really, really wish that I'd carried on doing. But I used to play the flute until I realised that you can't fucking play the flute and sing at the same time. Fuck's sake.
Do a little flute.
So why did I do that?
It could be a bit Anchorman. You could do sort of like the jazz flute solo.
Yeah, less American Pie, more Anchorman. So anyway, I had done a nice amount of work as a kid, but not by no means was it giving it child star, but I knew what I wanted to do. And I wasn't necessarily applying myself as I should have been doing my A-levels.
What does that mean, Cassie?
It means there was a pub at the end of the road. I won't tell you what it's called because they could get into trouble.
Sure.
But, you know, this is a very long time ago and...
A different time.
Different time. And I may have been drinking half pints because that was all I could afford, and they were £1.30 at the time, instead of really applying myself as I should have been, which I'm not proud of at all.
Sounds like you wanted people to like you as well. It sounds like you don't like being, you didn't want to be the lonely artist as we sometimes hear on this show.
Yeah, and I guess as well, I didn't want to be that person that was like, oh, she's just off and she's doing that and she doesn't socialise with anybody. And I wasn't applying myself. And I went home and my mum said, okay, there's an application form on the kitchen table. Simon Cowell's doing a new TV show, looking for singers. Fill it in if you want to go for it. If not, I strongly suggest that you sort your fucking life out.
Good mum.
And go and seriously start trying to work at your A-levels, because you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
You can't just expect things to come to you with no hard work. And she was pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
She was really pissed off. So I filled in this application form and I thought absolutely nothing of it at all. And then somehow it was the live finals. And I was like, and I had to work, and I worked hard, and I worked really, really hard. As soon as that process then, took off, I worked really hard. And I probably would have worked hard at my exams, but I needed somebody to say to me, you are about to waste everything. Because you don't know quite where you are, what you're doing, which is, and again, when you do what we do, it's easy to get lost. It's easy to not know which way to go, and so to just sit and not do anything and hope that something's going to come to you. And I needed my mum to say to me I was 16, you are going to fuck all this up unless you do something and you start making some choices and start working really hard.
Would you say that your mother was probably seeing some of the journey that she had in her own life
100%.
As a young woman, and kind of seeing, look, you are my daughter, and I've been here, kid, and you know what? Let's cut out all the shit that I went through so I can get you there quicker and less painfully.
100%. I think she most definitely wanted me to push myself more than my grandparents, God bless them. They didn't have any idea how this industry worked. They gave her their blessing and they said, we can't help you, so off you go to the States and off you go to do that. And without being pushy, which she's not at all and never has been. And if I'd have turned around and said, do you know what, Mum? Or if I turned around to her tomorrow and said, Mum, I don't want to do this anymore. She'd be like, okay, darling, you do what makes you happy, but do something. And that was her thing. And she didn't want me to, I guess she wanted me to do what she would deem as better, even though I look at her and she's my role model. Because if you can be a singer and that's all you do to make a living and that's your job for over 40 years, to me, that's success.
I'm quite moved by that, Cassie, because, and admittedly, and I am hoping that Mrs. Cassie is listening to this now, because, you saying that, and of course that's a lovely thing with the podcast, you just hear our voices, but I can see in your eyes that you are welled up and with such love for obviously such a remarkable woman. Well, in that case, I'm going to take a little break whilst we have a bit of a sob at how wonderful Cassie's mum is.
Hello, this is Kim Ismay, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates, and I hope you're having a wickedly interesting time.
So, as I said to you, today's been quite unusual for me because I finally sat down and watched all the footage that I can possibly find from the first season of The X Factor. And my first thought, the first thing I saw was your first audition.
Right.
You looking very different to what you do today. You've discovered conditioner now. That's lovely. And
a hair dye.
And a hair dye. You performing in front of infamous heterosexual Louis and also infamous heterosexual Simon Cowell and Sharon Osbourne. And watching you sing a cappella and I think it was a song from Sister Act that you did. And my first thought was, did you realise how big that show was going to go on to be, or did you think it would be just a sort of,
Not at all. Firstly, I just took it as another audition, which is why Simon made me go outside and scream, because
I was going to ask about that.
Because he was like, are you not nervous? Are you not off camera? Are you not nervous? I was like, it's just another audition to me.
Great.
And I think he was worried about it being musical theatre, or maybe he was like, they wanted some, some sort of excitement. Because I was like, as you do when you go in for an audition, you go in, you sing your song, and then you wait for your feedback, and that's that. So I just took it as that. And so he was like, if you go outside and scream and I can hear you in here, then my mum looked at me. I'll never forget her looking at me going, why are you screaming like that? I was like, I gave her a hug. I was like, I'll tell you later. As I come out, I hug her and I said, I'll tell you later. Scream.
Did you mean what you said? Because there's a quote where you say, when he asks, why are you here? And you say, because I want to perform in front of somebody who knows what he's talking about. Did you have a knowledge of who Simon Cowell was?
Yeah.
And do you feel after going through that process that actually... And I have to say this, as somebody that does watch occasionally the new X Factor, it's funny how he's turned from his Mr. Nasty side to now a slightly greyer, fatherly sort of welling up every time a child sings something about his dad. There's obviously a very different sort of PR angle on Simon. Do you think he really knows what he is talking about?
Yeah, I do. I do. And I did mean it. And I think that when I say he knows what he's talking about, I think when it comes to commercial music and what sells and what is popular and what makes money, do I think that he is massively musical and knows what he's talking about in that sense? Then perhaps not in the same way that Sharon does, because obviously she has been with Ozzy for 35 years and is the manager and has been immersed with, musicians and singers, and there's a different knowledge there. But yeah, I meant it, because for me it was the first venture into anything commercial in that respect. And I think he does, and I think if he didn't, he wouldn't be where he is now. So like it or not, I think that he has the knowledge of what makes something popular, whether we all like it or not, and what is mainstream. And it was just a new venture for me. So yeah, I do respect him, and I did want his opinion in that respect. Yeah.
And again, so much of the footage is not available, so I'm only going on
God
what's available on YouTube.
Christ.
What was quite tough for me to watch was I saw you do a rendition of the famous song Alfie, and lo and behold, and for people who didn't watch the first season, your mentor was Sharon Osbourne, but you perform Alfie, which I think you did beautifully.
Thank you.
And then you hear him, Simon, say, it was a bit like a child auditioning for a musical.
Well, yeah, because I just turned 17 years old, so maybe it was.
Maybe you were a child.
Maybe it was. However, the only thing I felt, and this leads me back to the point I made earlier, I have a huge amount of respect for Simon. The only thing I think that he ever said to me that I disagree with was, I thought the song, by the way, was awful, because anybody that says that a Burt Bacharach and Hal David song is awful,
Yep.
I'm going to say no thanks.
Sure.
No lights for you, because they're two of my most favourite composers of all time, and everything they write is absolute beauty and genius. So in that respect, I was like, okay. We spoke about this earlier, and I'm not going to go into it too much. However, we touched upon, speaking obviously off mic, that I think when you enter into a reality TV show, you have to understand that it's about TV, and it's not about you. I think you have to take from it what you can, and you can fight against it. And it's about me. It isn't. It's a TV show, and I was fully aware that Simon didn't like it, and that was what he was going to say. And so I was fully aware that I needed to just keep my mouth shut, let him rant at me, and see how that would come across. Which, let's be honest, having a go at a 17-year-old singing a Burt Bacharach and Hal David song, okay.
What's the public going to react to that?
What are they going to say?
Yeah.
And afterwards I had a conversation with Simon, and he asked me if I was okay. And he said, look, this is the show and this is the way that it is. And I was like, yeah, I'm totally fine. And he looked at me and he went, And I went, no, I'm fine. I totally understand. And he was like, oh, you get it. You're playing the game. I was like, well, it's your game, Simon.
Very good.
And when I say playing the game, I don't mean actively playing the game. I mean understanding that it's a TV show. Yeah. And I was just super, super lucky to be part of it at 17 years old. Who, you know, what an amazing experience.
And again, we could talk about all the various other bits and things that I've seen on YouTube, but ultimately this would end up catapulting you performing in arena venues to sometimes 22,000 people.
Yeah.
So I take it you sort of left the A-levels behind and went with the tour. What happened after the X Factor? What was your feeling after the hype had died down and then another series has come up and you're no longer Cassie Compton X Factor, you're just Cassie Compton, oh, I think I recognise you. What was it you did? You know what I mean?
So they were actually, and I say they as in the production, were really, really good at not just leaving you.
Good.
I don't know how it is now. I couldn't comment on that, but I know that in 2004, we were very much involved, very much a part of the 2005 series when I met, you know, the absolute gorgeousness that is Brenda Edwards, because she was on the series after me, and we're still friends now. I saw her literally like two weeks ago. We did a charity concert together, and we were very much involved. We were there. We were invited to the live shows. I never, ever felt like I'd just been dropped. I'm very fortunate again because I was 17. I think that I didn't have anything to lose. And so therefore, I just carried on with, okay, what do I want to do with my life? It may be very different if that happened now to have all of that. I mean, before the first live show, there were a few of us, we were in Topshop, shopping for outfits and it all went absolutely chaotic and they had to basically like evacuate a floor in Topshop. That's mental. Who says that happened?
Little
it wouldn't
rock
happen
stars.
Now I'm in Topshop like, can I afford that? No. But you know, that was the way it was. And I think you just have to go, wow, this is cool, take it and then crack on. And afterwards, I wasn't left at all. I was still very much in touch with a lot of people from production. And I put what would have been then a DVD together of my time on the X Factor, along with the CV, the stuff that I'd done when I was younger. And I got an agent, a theatrical agent. And touch wood, it's gone on from there.
Now, interestingly, because in many ways, and this is not to belittle that experience, but that was sort of your 5 minutes of fame, as it were, which is ironic because, of course, me as a theatre director had no idea of that time until a conversation ages ago, and then today finally watching that stuff. Really what you are best known for are roles such as Eponine in Les Miserables, Elizabeth in Dirty Dancing, and of course Nessa Rose in Wicked. But before those credits started to come along, there was a little show at the King's Head called Diamond.
Oh.
Listeners to the show will know from listening to Johnny Barr's episode about his involvement in that production. But of course, indeed, a production I saw, you were in Diamond. Just let our listeners know, just to sort of, in a nutshell, what was Diamond? And just tell me a little bit about going from the X Factor to the King's Head, one of the most famous London fringe venues, and how that differed and how you found that production.
Well, I mean, Diamond was just one of the best shows I've ever worked on. Mm-hmm. Dame Davelyn, one of the most incredible drag queens in the country, and Dame Johnny Barr, who has been in every single show imaginable, along with just an awesome, awesome cast who were, for the most part, all a lot older than me. So there was not 1 second that I walked into that being like, I've just been on TV. I was like, wow, you guys have all done a lot of work. I'm gonna shut my fucking mouth. I'm gonna shut my fucking mouth and I'm gonna watch you guys and I'm gonna learn and I'm gonna listen. And I played Lena and oh wow, I just learnt so much. All of us, obviously growing up in North London, the King's Head Theatre was, to me, an awesome place to work.
Yeah.
It's an institution. It's they've had some of the greatest performers work there. So that was just totally cool. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Then we were all crammed into a dressing room backstage and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I don't belong here with all these legends and people that have just done so much work.
How old are you now at this point, Cassie?
19. I was 19.
19. So
I was 19 years old.
A couple of years after the X Factor. Tell our listeners, only because we were enjoying a gin and tonic outside in the sunshine and you said, that is the first time and the last time that I ever missed a cue.
The first and the last time I've ever missed a cue. So my character had been away, had immigrated from East End of London to the United States and had been away for a matter of years, had a baby. She's meant to come back at the very end of the show in this, dramatic entrance. The King's Head Theatre, you're all in a little dressing room, it's like a little strip is the only way I can describe
corridor
it.
is another way to put it.
Corridor, yeah. And the hairdressers next door had allowed us to use the back of their shop. So I'm there, I'm just putting my lip liner on. I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm putting my lip liner on. Must be my cue at some point soon. And one of the guys, Stephen, came around and went, you're on. Every single cast member bar one is on stage waiting for me to come on and do this. Oh, she's back. They were sat there for over a minute. I walked on stage and I will never forget Dave Lynn and Johnny Barr looking at me like, you bitch. And it was full. It was packed. And it's an intimate space.
Yeah.
And they're meant to look at Lena with a look of shock. They looked at me with a look of,
here she is.
We are going to kill you when the curtain comes down. And I remember being so mortified. And Dave didn't talk to me for the rest of the evening. And Johnny, bless him, came up to me and said, listen, sweetheart, I know you're young. I know you're new. But you can't ever do that again.
Yeah.
And I have never, ever missed a cue since. I've never missed a cue.
Hi, this is John Barr, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
I'm going to continue to talk to Cassie, obviously, about her more commercial and larger roles. But now it is time for dramatic news. Today's top stories. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which recently won 6 Tony Awards on Broadway, will premiere in San Francisco in autumn 2019. J.K. Rowling, Jack Thorne and John Tiffany's production, which first premiered in London in 2016, will, by autumn 2019, be playing in at least 4 locations across the world simultaneously. The piece will open at the 1,600-seat Curran Theatre, which recently presented the Tony Award-winning musical Fun Home. Producers Sonia Friedman and Colin Callender said in a joint statement, the beautiful and historic Curran in San Francisco is the perfect theatre for the next North American company of Cursed Child. A partnership has been created by the Royal National Theatre and the London College of Fashion to encourage more costume, hair and makeup specialists for Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds. The two organisations have committed to diversifying the theatre industry's future workforce by nurturing and supporting non-white costume designers and specialists working in hair, makeup and prosthetics. The partnership will be led at London College of Fashion by Carl Rouse, head of the college's performance programme, who described the National Theatre's diversity targets as a rally call about what we need to be delivering. Maisie Williams, star of Game of Thrones, is to make her stage debut in the Hampstead Theatre's latest season. Williams is to play Caroline in Lauren Gunderson's I and You, a play about a schoolgirl who is confined to her room due to illness. I and You runs from October 18th to the 24th at the Hampstead Theatre, directed by Edward Hall. The Show People podcast is delighted to announce Show Peep. Sometimes just one episode every 2 weeks just isn't enough. Show Peep will be an addendum to the main show that will be significantly shorter than our continuing regular fortnightly episodes, but with no regular release date or length, but rather a little peep when we have some exciting news, a response about a news story or industry issue, details about an Arian Productions project, giveaways, and indeed anything else that might not justify a full episode we thought you might like to have on your radar. Have you got a news story that you'd like our listeners to know about? Well, please get in touch. Just email info@arian-productions.com.
Hi, this is Annette Badland, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
So let's talk about some tiny little shows. I don't know if our listeners have heard about them. First one, it's this French piece, quite avant-garde, Les Miserables.
Which one?
Les Miserables. Some girl with a cap on her own all the time.
She's lonely.
You know, the one that everyone's waiting to get shot? Yeah.
No, that was just when I was playing it.
Tell me the story you told me outside, because I don't think people will know this. And I can tell you'd like to get it off your chest a little bit. You auditioned for Les Mis more than once.
Yes.
And there's a reason you went into that show, not for reasons that perhaps some people have told you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's finally get that story out and clear things up.
So, having come out of the X Factor, I was in Diamond at the King's Head, and then I was filming Casualty for a little bit, and then I went on tour with Little Women, playing Jo March, which was my first straight play, and that was lovely. And I was 18, and I auditioned for Les Mis. And I had literally just turned 18, went in, and they were like, wonderful, wonderful, we love you. However, we don't feel like you have enough life experience. We don't feel like you're quite getting it yet. So come back next year. And I was disappointed, but I totally understood it. I was like, oh, okay, cool, fine. I went back the following year, and in that time, it's so silly now, but my ex-boyfriend had cheated on me.
Hang on a second. We won't name him, but we know who you are.
We're coming for you. We're not. It was so long ago. He's married with kids now. But he cheated on me, and I'd experienced a little bit of heartbreak and a little bit more life experience. And there I was, this 18-year-old. I was like, yeah, right, okay, now I'm ready. And I went in and I sung all the material, and then Cameron offered me the job. It was hard because I think people just assumed that, she just did the X Factor and that's why she got the role. And obviously I'm not going to tell people like, I auditioned for it last year and I didn't get it. But that wasn't the case at all, because I auditioned for it and they were like, you're not quite ready, come back next year. And I did. And that's when I got it. And it was hard. And I think the attitude towards reality TV then, it just wasn't accepted. It didn't matter that I've been working since I was 11 years old. It didn't matter the effort and the time and the work that I'd put in up until that point. It was simply, not in everybody's minds, but I think in a few people's heads, it was, well, she's just here because she did the X Factor. I mean, I remember one fan saying to me, oh yeah, when I found at Stage Door, when I found out that you were playing Eponine, I was really pissed off because obviously you've been on the X Factor. So I did slag you off online, but I take it all back. Like, I like your performance. And I just went, oh, okay, thank you. Would you mind deleting the stuff that you put about me online? That would be great. And then about 6 months into the run, Andrew Webber then had his first reality TV program, To Find a Maria. And I think attitude changed slightly. I 100% respect people's views on reality TV. For me, as we've had this conversation many a time, I don't think it defines somebody as a performer, as an actor, as a singer. For me, it's just another job, and it is. It's another audition, another job. However, I think when you enter into that, despite the end prize being different, the principle is still the same.
Sure. And also, again, from somebody who is not Cassie Compton, your CV in front of me, that there is 70 odd credits in front of me, of which 2 are the X Factor and X Factor Extra. So just in regards to Cassie Compton, this is why it goes back to when you told me you were in the X Factor and things. I was like, oh, were you? All right. Because my introduction to you was via mates, the industry, auditions, great roles you've played. And I suppose sometimes we need to put things into context. Of 70 credits, if 2 of them are something to do with reality TV when you were 17, let's just look at the balance of things, shall we? Yeah. If it was 9 reality TV shows and the next thing you wanted to do was Love Island, I might think
I wouldn't be sat here, I'm assuming.
No, but also, no, you wouldn't be. But also, there is a difference between somebody that is hungry for fame.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And there's another thing, which is, again, why I love this podcast, a little girl who grew up with within an extraordinary family who loved music, and lo and behold, at that point in your life, there was an application form. Right, done. Now for the rest of the show, we talk about West End shows and new pieces, commercial theatre, fringe theatre, starting Rupert Gould on American Psycho. Like, let's just put these things into reality. And I suppose I would say to you as your mate, I don't think people go Cassie Compton, reality TV star. I think they go very fine leading lady.
Oh, thanks.
I'm Alistair Brammer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates, a man with the hairdo of a children's TV presenter and the drinks cabinet of an elderly Broadway diva.
We touched on Les Miserables, but what a sort of difference to go from Eponine in Les Miserables to Elizabeth in Dirty Dancing.
Yeah.
Bit different.
So different. Well, I mean, Elizabeth basically just sung the entire soundtrack.
Yeah.
That was my job, was to sing the soundtrack for Dirty Dancing.
And is this the same production where you guys sing and then sort of dancers on the periphery sort of just dance bits and bobs out?
Yeah, or I think we were on the periphery and they were...
Oh, that.
And they were dancing centre stage, otherwise that would be so weird. Yeah.
Was it... I mean, it's not a show that I go, Cassie Compton, Dirty Dancing. Was it something that was great or was it terrible?
It was the best year of my life.
Really?
I mean, look, Dirty Dancing is Dirty Dancing.
Sure.
If you love the film, you're going to love it. And what Eleanor did do, the writer, was put together a freaking awesome soundtrack.
Sure.
And that's where the magic is, I think. You combine the song, things like These Arms Are Mine, Cry to Me, with those scenes, that makes that. If you just had like, oh, can I dance with you? Without like, bum, 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 bum. Do you know what I mean? Like, Cry to Me. It would be like, all right, doll. That was what made it sexy, was the soundtrack. And it was such a fun gig. It really, really was. It was a year. It was the Aldwych Theatre. It was like the third time I worked there, which was, again, for me, there was a child.
What was that like? Did you find yourself feel like you're coming home almost?
It's like my favourite place ever. Honestly, stage door were like, for about 5 years afterwards, would you piss off? Why'd you keep rocking up? It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And I tell you what I loved about it, and I'm not saying that it was high art, what I loved about it was a show that brought performers from so many different disciplines together. Straight actors. I mean, Stephen Hartley was playing Jake Houseman, who is just an absolute legend of an actor. Carol Starks was playing Mrs. Houseman. Leanne Rowe was our baby. Like triple threat. Martin Harvey, who was a soloist at the Royal Ballet.
Yeah.
And then you had obviously myself and the singers and my gorgeous friend Kelly Smith, who was her parents are Latin and ballroom champions and now judges, and that was her and Ian Bannum, who were Latin and ballroom dancers.
Because you're not the first to go through my interrogation on Dirty Dancing, and the other person which you'll like this, who you would never put in Dirty Dancing, was Fra Fee.
Well, Fra went in after me.
Oh,
Fee went after me. It was so much fun, and it was also, from a vocalist point of view, an absolute dream, because you're just jamming with a band. It's just you either singing solo or singing as a trio or duet, and you're just jamming with a band.
But to go from Les Miserables, a very story narrative heavy show, to then Dirty Dancing, which is very much a sort of vocal show, we then arrive in the sort of global phenomenon, which is Wicked.
Yeah.
Playing Nessa Rose, which was when I was doing Nessa Rose, which to our left is a lovely musical
I can see the poster right now.
The amount of people who would book, I've not told anyone this on the podcast yet.
Way.
People booked for Nessa Rose thinking it was the story of Nessa Rose.
We need to do this.
Yeah.
Why has there not been?
I mean, I don't know.
Why has there not been the story of Nessa Rose? Andrew, we need to get on it.
I imagine because Stephen Schwartz is too busy counting his cash. I imagine that.
I'm sure. I don't think he's counting it, dear. I think somebody else is counting it for him.
But I mean, tell me, so, Wicked in many ways, I think, sort of cemented you a little bit from a public perception, regardless of whether or not you think it was perhaps the greatest thing you've ever played. Within that, to be cast in that role within that musical does give you a level of kudos. Is it really all that it was sort of hyped up to be? Was it a great job?
It's a phenomenal piece of theatre to be in.
Yeah.
100% a phenomenal piece of theatre. I mean, the following is incredible, and the fact that so many people relate to their stories. From an artistic point of view, Nessa's an interesting task.
Yeah.
Because it's hard work to establish a character that's actually very important to the narrative.
Yeah, very much so.
And to Elphba's story, but to do that in 6 scenes or, whatever, 5 or 6 scenes. And those wheelchairs are hard work.
And I was going to ask...
On the rake, it's quite difficult. So to keep a sort of, and that sounds like a strange thing to say, but when you're dealing with the rake, and then to try and keep it looking smooth, it's a real challenge.
And the other question I must ask, because I'm sure people have asked you this before, was there a part of you that felt guilty almost being an able-bodied actor playing a disabled role?
Yes.
Like there must be part of you going, surely of all the roles in this show, this can go to somebody that's not going to be able to just mince out a stage door and sign an autograph.
I know that she then, obviously, those of you that know the show, she has to stand up. But there was it is a strange role to take on, because there's not a huge amount to do, but yet actually it is quite intricate, and it's also quite important, and there is that. And then you're handling wheelchairs when you're an able-bodied person, and they are hard to maneuver in when it comes to the show, like within context. But that's a strange thing to take on,
because
because
on my comments earlier, people are going to say, "Oh, she's got to." Of course, I know she has to stand up, but of course, there are people with specific needs who are able to stand for a short amount of time, however, will be bound to a wheelchair most of the time. And I'm really glad I asked that, because I've always thought, gosh, there must be a conundrum, I suppose, with how many people with specific needs who are coming to see that show who will automatically assume that, therefore, if they don't know what you've done before, in that case, she must be, she must have specific needs, because otherwise, surely you wouldn't put just an able body in that wheelchair. And I can understand the dichotomy. And also, it must be again, being honest, must be a bit boring knowing all the stuff that's going on that stage, and you've got to go and either sit at the back in your dressing room and be like, oh great, defying gravity again, enjoy singing that, love, But
I did watch a lot of Friends. And before I stopped eating meat, a lot of chicken wings
and Friends.
Chicken wings and Friends. Yeah, I think as well, though, it
wasn't the rake, it was the chicken wings that was making it difficult moving up and down the rake.
Of course. That is a rake. That is a raked stage. I think, again, with Nessa, it's really important. For me, it was really important to not focus on the fact that this character is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Even though she seems to put down everything that's going wrong in her life to her being in a wheelchair, it's not. Yeah. Well, for me, my portrayal was, it wasn't. It was simply that actually, Bok's in love with Glinda. I think the minute that you start playing that she has a disability and that's why her life is not what it should be, is a no-no.
Yeah, because it's not a fully rounded character, is it?
No.
It's like saying...
And also that's not the case, and that's not how everyday life works, and that's not, it really is, until you do it, it seems like such a simple role, but it isn't. Yeah. And I think you also have a responsibility to not make it about
disability.
This is West End Producer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with the sumptuous, the savoury, and the slightly sugary Andrew Keates. Dear.
So yes, of course, you went from Little Prince with Nick Lloyd Webber in the shadow of, his dad, and again, I think it's a wonderful show. But you did say to me, again, before we came on air, that one of your favourite jobs you've ever done, and again, looking back, we know you've played Eponine, we know you've done Wicked and Secret Garden, that actually one of your favourite jobs is something that I'm expecting nobody to know about. A piece called Spinach at the King's Head Theatre.
Yeah.
So what is Spinach and why was it so important to you after completing Wicked and Little Prince?
Spinach is a four-hander that we took. It was actually at Manchester Exchange and then it went to the King's Head on Upper Street. And it's a four-hander about a guy and a girl who wake up tied back to back together and they have no idea how they've got there. They don't know each other and they're piecing together almost in flashbacks how they got to that point. But it's 80 minutes sung through. I loved it because, I was working with a lovely, lovely bunch. Ben Gerard, Claire Greenway, Craig Whittaker. And it's written by Janine and Simon Waters. There was no score. So we learned 80 minutes. It's sung through show, 80 minutes by ear.
Blimey.
And we actually staged it. And I remember Janine, the director and co-writer, saying like, right, we're going to stage it all before we learn it. And I was like, this is mental. Say what? And we blocked the whole thing. And you know what?
Liberating.
It was awesome because then I knew where I was and why I was there and how I felt. And that actually helped to remember learning something theoretically just by ear. And it was 80 minutes sung through. It's a challenge not to need a pee. To not even allow yourself.
Well, I know how many breaks I've given you just for this podcast.
I know, right? That's the gin. To not allow yourself a toilet break in 80 minutes. And it was just this really quirky, really interesting new piece that touched on so many subjects. And it wasn't just about these two people being, kidnapped and tied back to back. And it was actually about a pharmaceutical company, so a little political, really. But
I really want to go out and listen to it.
I really want to do it again.
Should we make a phone call to Janine Waters and go?
Yeah.
Right, we're going to bring it back.
I would love to bring Spinach back because everybody that saw it and they were like, "This is the weirdest thing we've ever seen," but it was compelling and we loved it. So that was interesting.
Now I know I can't cover every credit. You would also go on to do Monkey Business, and you'd also do Carnival of the Animals at Riverside Studios with Tom Sutherland. Then a credit comes along which attracted so much industry attention, not only because the leading man was Matt Smith, former Doctor Who, and somebody that I know we both know and have had quite a night out with in the past, but because somebody bravely said, let's do American Psycho, the musical.
Yeah, for me, it was probably one of the most exhilarating, terrifying, and just most exciting 6 months. What on earth? How are you going to put that on stage?
Yeah.
But we did. They did. We did. I remember being up for it and thinking, I can't believe that they're seeing me for this. B, I am never going to get this.
Yeah.
In a million years. Are you joking? As if they're going to give me the lead, one of the female leads in American Psycho at the Almeida. Yeah, all right. Jog on, Cass.
With Rupert Gould directing, of course.
With Rupert Gould directing, David Shrubsall, musical supervisor, Duncan Sheik, having written the lyrics and the music. Duncan Sheik.
Yeah.
Duncan won't be listening to this, but if he ever does, I want him to know that I found it fascinating.
And the hardest ticket. It's been a long time since a musical. I did see it. And
did you love it or did you hate it?
I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it. I saw flaws, but tell me a musical or I haven't, because I'm a director and that's my sort of my job. But I thought the design was out of this world.
She is incredible.
And that's not me being a sort of bitch going, oh, I love the scenery. I'm not mean that. First of all, the framing device was amazing. I know Matt. I like Matt a lot. I really admired him. He was out of his comfort zone and he brought a genuine streak of dark humanity to that role, which was delicious to the point where I cared. And it was almost like, it's like Sweeney Todd, I suppose.
That's an art.
Yeah.
To make you, because again, those of you that have read the novel or you've seen the film, Do we know if this is his imagination? Do we know if this is a reality? Doesn't matter. The story is the story. To get any sense of feeling for Patrick Bateman,
Sure.
only takes an incredible actor.
Yeah.
Like, it really, really does. He is a real person. And from the minute that he stepped in the room, and he was terrified.
Yeah.
I mean, I was terrified, but we were terrified for different reasons. He worked so hard.
Yeah.
And there was not 1 second that he walked in bringing anything other than, oh, damn, what have I done? I need to work really hard here. And he's a real person. And that, I like to think that that's what came across when you were watching it. And I know being on stage, I mean, don't get me wrong, literally from one show to the next, I'm like, where is he? He was not where he was stood yesterday. Matthew, where are you? But that, for me, I was like, what an awesome, and not just him, like Hugh Skinner. Hugh Skinner, who was just a legend, Jonathan Bailey, Holly Dale Spencer, Holly James is, Katie Braben.
Yeah.
What an incredible cast of peers.
But also, Cassie, and again, I wonder if you've questioned this yourself, but what was clear with that production is everybody was cast on their acting ability.
That makes me feel really happy, because I was like, what am I doing here amongst these incredible people?
But you didn't look out of place, but B, again, I've often said the Show People podcast, otherwise known as Andrew Keates' therapy session, with the likes of Hugh and Katie and people like that, I really enjoyed the casting, where it was about what was being played, and perhaps the music wasn't just melodic and lovely, and there weren't any buttons or...
Well, it's Duncan. Do you know how hard A Girl Before is? I said, this interval, am I really jumping up to the flat? Am I? What, from nowhere? Am I? Yeah, you are. I was like, okay, I'm doing it then. And that was the point. And I think that's why Duncan was so perfect to write the score for it, because it should not, and I know some people would have preferred it to have been, but there was no way that it should have been a traditional musical theatre score for my money.
Yeah.
It needed to be that obscure, almost like, I don't know if this quite works. This isn't traditional. For me, that's how it should have been.
This is Kumiko Mendel, Artistic Director of Yellow Earth Theatre. You are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
It is time for the Show People podcast platform, the part of the show where we showcase some new writing talent. And today's artist is somebody that Cassie knows very, very well. And that is Paul Alexander Boyd. And I'm going to be playing a song from his acclaimed new musical, Alice the Musical, an adaptation of the books by Lewis Carroll in his most popular musical that has proved to be a big hit time and again in productions around the world. Now, Alice the Musical premiered in 1998 at Northern Ireland's National Producing Theatre, the Lyric Theatre Belfast, and the original production was nominated as Best Drama at the 1999 Belfast City Arts Awards. Since then, Alice the Musical has been produced by theatres across Ireland, the UK, and in 2009 the show had its USA premiere at the Actors Playhouse at the Miracle Theatre, Miami, Florida, where it proved so successful that it was revived for a second time the same year, and again for another record-breaking revival in 2015. In 2011, Alice the Musical opened in a Japanese translation by Merry Artist Company at the Nagoya City Higashi Playhouse in Japan, and now celebrating its 20th anniversary in 2018, Alice the Musical is finally returning to its original home at the Lyric Theatre for the first time since 1998 in a great all-new production directed by Paul. Featuring a host of Lewis Carroll's most infamous characters, Alice the Musical tells the story of Alice's adventures in Wonderland and her attempts to escape the clutches of the notorious Queen of Hearts. Today's song is called Nothing Here Makes Sense and is performed by John Davis as the Caterpillar. Alice meets the Caterpillar in Wonderland and realises that she has much in common with him. They both agree that nothing makes sense in this strange land.
Just when you think you are sorted, just when you feel you belong, then you hear it's been reported, everything you've learned is wrong. And now I'm revealing, I can't help the feeling that this joke is at my For a caterpillar not to want to go and change. Wouldn't it be more fair? Not to put a caterpillar, any kind of caterpillar, my kind of caterpillar, not to put a caterpillar in the air. Everybody telling why must a caterpillar crawl and a butterfly? Couldn't it be arranged for a caterpillar not to want to go and change? Wouldn't it be more fair? Not to put a caterpillar, any kind of caterpillar, my kind of caterpillar, not to put a caterpillar in the air. Just when your patent is pending, just when you think life is fair, you find out that you will be spending the rest of your life in the air. And though it is strange, you are nearing the change.
You don't know when it will commence.
A butterfly's life is just full of surprises. I don't mean to cause them offense, but nothing here makes sense.
Well, for more information about Paul Boyd and his work, please just visit www.pbmusicals, that's paulboydmusicals.com, or give him a follow on Twitter at Paul Alex Boyd. Those details, along with everything else on the show, can be found at the Show People podcast show notes. So do check out, give Paul a follow. And also all of his albums of previous works, including Molly Wobbly's Tit Factory, which I'll be talking to Cassie about in a moment, are available to buy on iTunes. Are you a writer, a composer, or an artist who creates original work? Well, I want to hear from you. Please get in touch. Send me a recording as well as information about your show, the context, who is performing, and full permission to play on the Show People podcast, and I'll be delighted to share your work with our loyal listeners. Who knows? Anybody could be listening. The address to send your recordings to is info@arian-productions.com, as I'm very passionate about supporting new work and, of course, getting it out there. What's there to lose? Get in touch.
Hi, this is David Bedella, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
So, Cassie, going from big West End productions and things at the Almeida to, funny enough, another piece by Paul Boyd, which I apologise for being so fucking obsessed about, to Molly Wobbly's Tit Factory.
Molly Wobbly's Tit Factory.
So, and I admit it, there are other things that we're going to cover, which I've sort of skipped over, but I thought would be a good link after we've just listened to Paul's music. Tell our listeners what Molly Wobbly's Tit Factory was about.
Where the hell do I start? Molly Wobbly's Tit Factory.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 3 couples, and a stranger comes to town and turns it all upside down.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Russell Morton.
Russell Morton, what a legend.
Heaven.
So Conleth Kane and I, we had the Mammary Lane hairdressers.
Yes.
Although one night I went, "Hello, Mammary Lane Hotel." And I heard Conleth off stage go, What? How the fuck am I going to get back from that? So I went, "Mammary Lane Hotel, hairdressers." Never missed a cue, but I will fuck up my lines.
But I suppose as well, it's a tricky thing to explain to people that haven't seen it. But it was sort of
like a Rocky Horror meets the Little Shop of Horrors.
With references to loads of other musicals.
Yeah, and tits.
And lots of tits. And actually a brilliant sort of satirical approach to how we change our bodies and whether changing our bodies will bring us happiness or is it okay to change our bodies? Is it anybody else's business?
Yeah.
Sort of, and then throw into that projection, satire, musical theatre references, sort of shock-headed Peter sort of looking like characters.
Big ginger wigs for me.
Very, very big ginger
fake
wig.
boobies.
And and I saw it about 9 times.
I know. I love that you loved it. And I could always hear you.
Well, I do have quite a distinctive laugh.
Yeah, me too. Not like Christopher Biggins, though. When he came to see American Psycho, imagine trying to do American Psycho keeping a straight face while Biggins is laughing in the audience. We were crying.
Was he laughing at the appropriate times?
Oh, not always. I mean, he was seeing obviously, you know, the satire in the piece and the irony. Yeah. However, it was hard to keep a straight face. You weren't that bad.
So looking towards the end of the current roles that you're doing, not counting stuff that we can't talk about that you're doing in the future. In there, we also had Kathy in the last 5 years at Henley Festival, directed by Andy Smith. And you also did See What I Want to See, which is a superb show directed by Adam Lenson.
Yes, of course.
But I suppose the show, which again hasn't had the recognition because it's still in its sort of early days, is Rehab by Elliot Davis.
Yeah.
And finally, 27 at the Cockpit Theatre by Sam Cassidy, who is a friend, and anybody that's had a drink in Freedom would have met Sam Cassidy. What is it that attracts you to supporting and being a part of these often underdeveloped but brave little musicals?
So if I like people, a team, and I think that the initial ideas have legs, then I think you would be a fool not to at least listen, or you never know how something's going to develop. And for me, if I have a strong, and this is where opinions differ, but for me, if I have a strong role written for a female, even if it doesn't come across on paper as a strong role, just because take 27 for example, where I know that a lot of people are like, oh, well, she's still downtrodden, or she's still trying, and it doesn't matter. It's a very, very relatable. She's a relatable woman, and that's what makes those roles interesting for me.
Yeah.
Just because they're victims doesn't mean that they're weak.
No.
Doesn't mean there's not a story to tell. Doesn't mean that it's not relatable for thousands of women.
Yeah.
And if I don't necessarily relate in that way, then I'm like, okay, cool. And if I can't see that, I'm like, oh, wow, this is incredible, then fine. I still think there's always room for growth. And we have got to start supporting new writing, particularly in this country.
Yeah.
And I'm all up for new writing wherever it comes from. But we have to support new writing in the UK because it's out there. And actually, you know what? For the most part, it takes up, a couple of weeks. And you never know where that's going to go. And for me, there's something really exciting in discovering a character that nobody else has discovered yet. And then also passing that on. So, okay, you find that, and then somebody else might find something else with it, and then it might eventually get into its full production. And hopefully it's not just your ideas, but then another actress's ideas and another actress's ideas. And then eventually you come up with, or a team comes up with, a product or a character that's like an amalgamation of everybody's, thoughts and feelings. That's, for me, that's new writing.
This whole journey that we've done together on this podcast, from the little girl growing up with her family where music was integral, to the teenager in the reality TV show, the leading lady in the commercial big shows, to the older actress now supporting.
I'm not that old.
Older, same age, older. My question to you now is, what would you like Cassie Compton to become in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard question.
That's why I ask it.
I would like to continue working. I would like to continue creating stuff, working with different people. I think that's all anybody can hope for, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we'd all like to sit here and go, oh my gosh, I'd love to do the 5 movies and 3 Netflix series and have a Grammy Award winning album, and that would be wonderful. And if that happens, then fucking great. However, if I'm working, then I'm cool. It's all good.
Hello, this is Rufus Hound, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates. But the real question is, what are you doing while you're listening? Stop touching that, you filthy bastard.
Well, it is time for my favourite things. Cassie Compton, I'm going to strand you in Whitley Bay. I need to know what you need to survive. I'm going to ask you what album you would need, what film, what book, what play, what musical, and what luxury item. Now, I am going to give you a copy of the complete works of William Shakespeare, as well as the Bible or any other religious text that you would like, either to read or to use as a doorstop. But I want to know what you need to survive, starting with what would be the album that you would take?
One Day Remains, Alter Bridge.
What? So tell me, what's that? I don't know it.
Alter Bridge. I'm quite a big sort of indie alternative rock fan, which might sound bizarre to people, but at the moment I'm listening to one of their albums, One Day Remains, which is my favourite. And if not, then I don't know. Maybe some Metallica, Iron Maiden, Linkin Park.
Well, no one's going to be around in Whitley Bay,
so
you can play as loud as you like.
As loud as I want.
Air guitar to your heart's content. And what would be the film?
Oh, that's really hard. I'm more of a series gal than
a serial Netflix binger.
A serial Netflix binger than a film person. But let me think. If there's a film that I could watch over and over again, I would say Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
Lovely.
Because I could watch it over and over again.
Do you know what I'm going to do? Inspired from this episode onwards, I'm going to add another category to Whitley Bay Discs, and that is what would be the television series box set. Because I interview actors. What would be your TV show?
My TV show. Oh, Power.
Okay.
Power, Stars, Power.
Yeah.
Netflix. Yeah.
And what would be the book?
Oh, I think this is stagey. Probably one of Barbra Streisand's autobiographies.
Oh, lovely.
I mean, because I started rereading one and it's absolutely fascinating. And I love her no fucks attitude. And sometimes you need a bit of that in your life. So I reckon I'd go with that. That'd keep me positive, I think.
Did you know, and again, I've heard this story a couple of times, so I believe it to be true. Did you know that underneath one of her properties, underneath one of her houses, she has a mall which is populated entirely by... So all the shops and things she's had built, which are entirely all of the great costumes and clothes and jewellery that she's worn over the years. And that you can pop down to a mall and it's got cash registers.
We go?
I know. I believe that
How do we get there?
I believe you have to be friends.
Magic carpet?
Sadly, you have to be friends with Barbra Streisand, but she has a recreation of a mall underneath her home, which is full of things like her funny girl dresses and things that are all in the shop windows.
Stop it.
Yeah. I know. I want to go. It's like more than anything else, I want to go to Barbra Streisand's mall.
I love the story of when it was like her first... I think it may have been one of her theatre debut, or maybe like one of her first appearances. And all she had to do was walk from one wing across the stage to the other.
Yeah.
And it took her way longer as she just sauntered across the stage in this very grand walk. And apparently the director was like, in notes, okay, Barbara, you need to speed that up. And apparently she said something like, okay, I can get it down to like a minute or something like that. And my mum still says to me to this day, she was like, Cassie, don't ever look like you're desperate to get off stage.
Yeah.
Just think, what would Barbara do?
What would Barbara do?
Well, Barbara would take a whole minute to walk across the stage, dear.
And what would be the play that you would take?
Ooh. I don't know why. This is so random. Mysterious Skin has just come to my head.
Gosh, we've never had that one before. Mysterious Skin, yeah.
And I don't know quite why, but I've seen a couple of productions and also I've watched the adaptation of it, the screen adaptation.
The film, yeah, because I believe the film, because the play, I believe, because originally a novel, because I think there was a novel, then there was the film, then there was the play adaptation. And what will be the musical?
Oh gosh, how long have we got for me to think about this? Blood Brothers.
Blood Brothers.
That is my favourite. I don't know why it took me so long to answer.
Do you think in time you'll ever play Mrs. Johnson?
Mrs. Johnson, I would love to. Yeah. It's timeless. It's one of those pieces that I think you could set it, and this is why I love it. It doesn't matter in what era you set it, what year you set it, it is still relevant. And that's why it works, and that's why I love it, and that's why I find it moving.
And Cassie, last thing for when you're stranded in your Whitley Bay dressing room, What would be the luxury item? Anything you can have in the world, what would be the luxury item?
Sushi.
Sushi?
I have sushi as a luxury item. It's not an item, really, is it?
You can have you won't starve
Salmon
in Whitley
skin
Bay.
roll?
Yeah, you can have a bit of sushi.
Or does it have to be an actual, item?
Maybe I should have that. What food would you need to survive, and then what luxury item? Well, if not sushi, what would be the other item?
If I needed an item, I would say... well, I need music.
Mm-hmm. But you have all those things, because that's how you can play your CDs and things. You haven't got an instrument.
I don't play one other than the flute. I don't know. I'm pretty simple, to be fair. I'm not that high maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some people might disagree. I'm trying to think about what I'd have in my dress. As long as I've got a speaker to play my music, I'm absolutely fine.
Decent sound system.
Just a decent sound system.
Hi, I'm Alexis Gerard, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with the brilliant Andrew Keates. And I mean that, and not just because he slipped me a cheeky 20.
Well, it's time for everyone's favourite part of the show. Funny 5 minutes. Cassie Compton, I am going to ask you a series of questions which are the world's most obscure and frankly outrageous questions that you've ever been asked before.
Yay!
You must answer as many of these questions as quickly as possible. However, you are allowed 3 passes, but use them wisely because you have no idea what I'm going to ask you. Cassie Compton, let's play Funny 5 Minutes. Cassie, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
What is your favourite theatre?
The Aldwych.
What is your greatest fear?
Oh, my greatest fear. Doing the same thing every day for the rest of my life.
What do you wear when you go to bed?
A pair of pants and a t-shirt.
What's the strangest thing you've ever had in your mouth?
Pass.
Is that a pass? Pass. Do you have a favourite sport?
Swimming.
If someone narrated your life, who would it be?
I'd love it to be Jennifer Aniston.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Who would play you in a movie of your life?
Natalie Portman.
If you're a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Telling if someone was chatting bullshit.
Musically, what's your guilty pleasure?
90s pop.
Sweet or savoury?
Savoury.
If you had an autobiography, what would it be called?
What the hell am I doing with my life?
Would you ever like to swim with sharks?
No.
No, why would you? Stupid idea. Who is the ugliest person you've ever had to kiss on stage?
Pass.
That's a pass. If you ordered a pizza, what would be your toppings?
Vegetarian.
Do you believe in aliens?
Yeah.
Very good. Do you have a teddy bear?
I used to.
What was he called?
He was called Brown Bear, and then I had White Bear, and then I lost them both in Sainsbury's.
What if you were just losing shit as a kid?
I know, such a twat.
What do you think the meaning of life is?
I think it is to be kind, make yourself happy, and love lots.
Are you an early riser or a night owl?
Night owl.
How do you like your eggs in the morning?
Oh, it really depends on what mood I'm in. Usually scrambled, like my brain.
And that is not a euphemism, everybody. What is the most delicious thing you can cook?
I love, I make a really good salmon fillet burger.
What do you think of Morris dancers?
I think they're bloody wonderful.
Wonderful Morris dancers. What is the stupidest thing you've ever done?
Jesus Christ, we don't have enough time for me to answer that.
If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Sushi.
Sushi. Have you ever pissed yourself on stage?
Not on stage, but I have pissed myself.
Where is the strangest place you've ever had a wee?
Down a side alley off of Holloway Road. I was very young.
If you could jump into a swimming pool filled with something, what would it be?
Sushi.
More sushi. That'd be rank. What is your favourite Disney film?
The Little Mermaid / Beauty and the Beast. Can't choose.
Can you genuinely not choose?
No.
If you're an animal, what animal would you be?
A cat.
Cat. Who is the most famous person you've ever met?
Oh, how do I answer that?
I don't know.
Simon Cowell, Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy Osbourne, Robbie Williams. What?
What is your worst habit?
I've got so many.
What is the habit that you always get brought up on?
When you're on stage, stop fiddling with your hair.
What is the worst note you've ever been given by a director?
Truth. And I cried for about 2 weeks. I don't know what's happened to you. From the auditions to 2 weeks into rehearsals, you're now really underconfident. And are you all right?
Literally. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that noise sadly tells me that is the end of the show. But before we go, it is time to squeeze in just a few more parish notices. Firstly, thank you to Paul Alexander Boyd for sending in a song from his new musical, Alice the Musical. Well done to everybody who made it into dramatic news. But ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the one and the only Cassie Compton!
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on the show, you
Thank you.
gorgeous, gorgeous creature.
I love you.
How can people keep up to date with all that you're up to?
Oh, Cassie Compton, Twitter, CassieCompton.com.
And as I've noticed, it's CASSI Compton.
COMPTON.
No E.
No E.
Even though there is an E.
Somebody had it.
Bastards.
I know.
Don't forget, you can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew Keates. Follow the show at ShowPeopleUK and use hashtag ShowPeoplePodcast. You can send me an email to info@arian-productions.com or like the Show People Facebook page at facebook.com/ShowPeoplePodcast, where you can join the Listeners Forum and talk with other listeners to the show and discuss the issues that have been raised on today's episode. This podcast is produced by Arian Productions Limited, dedicated to giving opportunities to theatre makers. If you enjoyed the show and if you'd like to continue to receive this free fortnightly podcast, well then consider buying a Show People Podcast mug. All of the profits go towards enabling us to create more opportunities for theatre makers. Or if you don't need a mug, why not visit arian-productions.com/donate. And if you've been considering going, we'll sling them 20 quid, why not let that be today? Because the more money we've got, the more things we can do. Please don't forget to leave a review and subscribe to whatever platform you listen to us on. Until next time, show people, just be better. Little girl growing up with her family where music was integral to the teenager in the reality TV show, the leading lady in the commercial big shows to the older actress now supporting.
I'm not that old.
Older, same age, older. My question to you now is, what would you like Cassidy Jansen to be doing?
What's my name?
Oh my God, that's because that poster's there. See that?